Hey guys, it's your course director, Emily Ray here. Just wanted to give you a little bit of positive, productive feedback on these portfolio websites. Now, I know that you've been working hard on these over your time in MCBS, and certainly the notes that I provide here are just meant to help you get this to the next best place. Your portfolios, in essence, will never be done. You'll always be doing better work and becoming more skilled at your craft. So your portfolio should constantly be updated to reflect your current skill set and capabilities, and also the types of projects that you want to get involved in after you get out of graduation. So we're going to start here with Jarmal. So very clean representation of you and your brand. All of your work takes on this really nice aesthetic. Scrolling down, we've got your logo and brand up here, and then about projects, blog, and hire. I'm going to scroll down. One thing that I did notice is that the word view is misspelled right here, so you kind of just want to go over this with a fine-tooth comb, certainly in terms of spelling. You peg yourself as a photographer and a designer, and you do a nice job of sort of dripping out this content in these little blocks. Like, you're never really overwhelming us with too much. We've got your recent projects here. They float up in a way as to feature them significantly. The link to these projects is the word view, but I would suggest maybe making the image also a link, and potentially the name itself, and that would maybe alleviate the need to say view. But if this is going to take us to a more detailed project page, maybe you would say something like, view the case study, or view all project assets, something along those lines. Scrolling down, just taking a look at the really nice layout. It's balanced, it flows really well, and you've got a lot right here on the home page just to get us up to speed with who you are and what it is that you can do for others out there with your media communication skills. So I'm going to scroll up to the top and just sort of poke around to see what else we can see on the About page. As it loads up, we see here you doing your work. Now, I love it when you guys have images of you sort of in the field and showcasing what it looks like, in your studio, or where you sit down to be creative. One thing is that when you have paragraph text, you don't want this to be center aligned. Anytime you have more than one or two sentences, and when the text wraps to a new line, it's much easier for us to read, especially in an online environment, if that text is aligned to the left, so that way our eyes float very easily and wrap to the next line, and there's a consistent starting place there. Scrolling down, just seeing the full services that you offer, and you say here, go ahead and view the portfolio. I have several ways to jump around to those spots. So I'm gonna jump here to your print design portfolio. So here we're taking a look at some of the things that you've created. Now, this looks familiar, knowing that it came from the graphic design class, which is great. You talk a little bit about the service itself, but I'd like to see you contextualize these projects a bit more. I'm going to select it to see, okay, there's nothing here that really says kind of what the scope of this was. I know it because I'm one of the instructors in MCBS, but to the extent that you can treat these somewhat like a case study, where you're highlighting fully what you did on the project, what was the ask, and what was your creative and unique approach, I think that would help really explain the full value of what you're bringing to each of these service areas. I'm going to jump here to projects really quick. So these are recent, and I'm going to, let's just check out Chris here. It's going to open up, and that's taking me both away from your site and onto a Facebook page. Now, that is something that was unexpected, and for me, a bit of a disconnect with the experience here. You say that you're doing branding, so I'm thinking for Chris that you're going to show me a branding package, not take me to his Facebook page. And so, there's a disconnect between what I expected to happen and what actually happened. And also, here you might give the user a little bit more information to say, like, see the brand in action on Facebook, something like that, just so it gives us a heads up as to what's about to happen. Kind of scrolling down, you have your recent projects, and I'm curious as how do projects differ from portfolio? What's the difference? These might be featured projects, but don't all your projects go into your portfolio? Something to think about in terms of the organization of this information. Scrolling down too and looking at this individual here, this isn't you. So, you know, I have a curiosity as to why is this image displayed so prominently here. I'm going to go here to view the work and maybe portfolio. Let's see. Maybe portfolio has to do with photography. Just not quite sure with the way you've laid it out. So there's a few questions that maybe could be cleared up just in terms of how you're organizing this information and orienting visitors here to your site. I'm going to jump next to your blog. So here we can see it's your student blog, which is full of really great information and talking really about your educational journey. But I want to encourage you guys to think about, is this appropriate to include on your professional site? If it is part of your brand, you know that you are constantly evolving your skill set and doing new things and you want to kind of showcase your journey over time, then absolutely. But if you're you know, trying to distance yourself from the, you know, maybe a student life or you know, being the idea potentially that a student equates being an amateur, which it absolutely does not, it's, you know, certainly something for you to think about, you know, the choice or the decision to include this here. Last but not least, let's go to hire. It takes us to a simple contact form. Really love this picture of you, and it looks like you're sitting here with a you know, a headshot client or a portrait client. This is just a really great page. You might want to include maybe some you know, service packages, or, you know, what kinds of projects do you want to get involved in? Where's the call to action? Who should contact you? You know, is there a particular type of target audience or clientele you're seeking out? These are things that would work here on this space. Overall, Jarmar, this is a great portfolio site. There are a few tweaks that you can make you know, just to make it even stronger, but you know, you've had a strong foundation for this all along, and it's you know, it's just something with a change or two, you can get it to its next best place as you get ready to graduate from MCBS. All right, next up we have Alex and his site here. So Alex is a professional in the production realm. What we see here is kind of a large banner section that is showing him doing what he does. We've got career behind the lens, so kind of talking about being in production. This wraps in somewhat of a weird way. That lens falls to the next line. I'd like to see that all on a single line. Maybe that means expanding the container of this content, or maybe it means making this text a little bit smaller. Again, you never want to center align paragraph text. You want to left align that because it makes it easier to read, especially in a web-based environment. Scrolling down here, we see a couple of the stations or projects that you've worked on, and it kind of gives us more information about your involvement and what you did there. So, you know, enjoy seeing the ways that your experiences can be highlighted. I guess this is maybe then your resume section. You know, so it's really just promoting, you know, all the good work that you're doing in these various capacities on these various projects. Scrolling down here, we've got your reel. So here are examples of your experiences and work. Looks like we've got a bunch of their links, so I'm going to go ahead and select it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is some of your photography or maybe videography at a wedding. Kind of scrolling through you behind the camera. This is loading and it looks like a screenshot of you here on air. There you are again. All right, so it's kind of showing us you doing what you do and you at work. Do you have any sort of you know, portfolio pieces or anything, you know, sort of a completed version of something that you've produced so that you can showcase us? That might be something nice. So we've got, let's see, this is jumping down to contact, and I see a video here. I'm going to go ahead and press play because I'm curious. Is this the reel? Let's see, it's loading in. Okay, so it's a very beautifully done video. Curious though, what was your role in it? I'm going to jump here to the end. Okay, so iHeart Films. Let's see, are there any credits? I don't see any credit here. Okay, so my question to you is then, why are you showcasing this? What is the skill set involved here? And, you know, what hand or what part did you play in this? And how can you make that clearer so people understand and know the full scope of what you're capable of? You got a simple contact me form. You know, and other ways that people can get in touch with you on various social media platforms. You are already a pro. We can see it, you know, here with what you're doing. A few tweaks to this, and you'll just get it into an even better place. You know, to use it as a promotional tool, or to be able to leverage it in the service of you going out and getting, you know, more or better work in the industry as you'd like to. Next up, we have Natalie's site here. So creator and designer. So we're on the home page, and curious, you know, I don't see any navigation links. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page just to make sure it didn't load in incorrectly. So it's coming in. I'm trying to scroll. It won't let me do anything. I can see that my mouse has turned into a hand, which is indicative that this is a link. So I'm going to go ahead and click it. You know, but someone might not be that observant, right? So you need to be mindful that someone would just kind of look around and be like, well, I don't know what to do here. And to the extent, you know, that you want people on your site and you want them to very easily poke around and see all of the great things that you're showcasing, don't put obstacles in their way, or don't make them guess about how to do it. Intuitive navigational structures are really important, and to the extent that you can facilitate someone's experience, you need to make it as easy as possible to find the content that they're looking for. Scrolling down, we've got a welcome page here. It gives a little bit about you, and then a link here to an about me. So this is a little redundant, right? About me in this space here. And there's just like a lot of different like content blocks, right? So we've got block, 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 and then some more blocks down here. My recommendation here should maybe just be to create like a single canvas, and then have this content, you know, sort of less floating in less structures, because as is right now, you know, it looks a little scattered. Right, so if you had, I'm going to draw this out with some of my screen capture tools, a canvas that looked like this, then you could include these elements and move them around in a way and align them so that they would look like they had a bit more structure, or you know, they would align a bit more here on the page. Can appreciate the quote that you've included, and then we've got your contact information down here and the other areas that we can connect with you online, which is great. I'm going to jump to your About Me page next, and that just takes me, so this is the canvas that I was talking about. So employing something like this on the home page would be nice. The other thing to note is that like your header is taking up a lot of space. It's almost like 1/3 of the real estate here. You know, wondering if you can grab this logo, maybe move it over to this side, and then move that navigation up, move this navigation up into this space, so that you get about an inch more of space here for your content. So sharing a little bit about you, your skills, and your backstory, which is great. I'm going to move this forward. So you've got quite a bit to share, and quite a bit about your background. But this is a lot of paragraph text. I might encourage you to think about ways, how can I show you this thing, all of this, instead of telling it to you, right? And to some extent, your website is the showcase of this. So keeping in mind that people don't spend a lot of time reading text on websites, I just want you to be thinking about, okay, instead of relying on this much text, how can I leverage multimedia, you know, to really showcase what it is that I'm trying to say here. I'm going to go to resume next. So here we have a picture of words. Now, this is not ideal for a number of reasons, mostly because the usability of this is decreased significantly when it is a collection of pixels in the shape of letters, and letters that form words, and sentences that our human eyes can read, but machines like search engines cannot index for search engine optimization purposes. So there's good keyword-rich content here that Google wouldn't be able to associate with your name, because these are not words anymore. It's a collection of pixels that our eyes make sense of as words. Additionally, when you create a screenshot of words, it compresses it. And so you can see this text here is a bit hazy or a bit blurry compared to text that is selectable or able to be highlighted still. So that's definitely something that you want to revisit and take all this information, and you can lay this out in a 2-column layout the same way that you did on the About Me page, right? So we've got this in one column, and then you've got, an image or an area for other content here. You can do that same thing with your resume content. For the blog, going to jump here. It looks as if this is maybe an iframe from another source, right? So basically you've provided us a window within this window to take a look at your student work here. The question is, one, why not just include these blog posts on a blog here? Why do you have 2 separate sites? And if you feel like you want to keep those identities separate, therefore having 2 separate sites, why include this here? Because it makes me think that maybe this is your student persona and this is your professional persona, but by including it, it makes it look like you're wanting it to be one and the same. So if you want it to be one and the same, I encourage you to consolidate this content into this one space. Going to go to your work. Let's go take a look at your graphic design. So here we have, just some of the projects that you've worked on. So I like that you've included this little bit of information. The client wants items that reflect the geek and nerd culture. So you've given me some context to help understand. Notice that when I hover over these thumbnails, in this case, it gives me Untitled 2. In this case, it gives me Screenshot. If you're not going in and putting titles and descriptions in here manually, generally it will default to the file name of that image, which in many cases is nonsensical, somewhat like Screenshot or Untitled, which doesn't really mean much. When I click on this, notice how it gives me the title here, Neurotic Nerds logo. But notice when I go back, this one says Screenshot, right? So these are the small details that you need to go back in and make sure that it's like dotting your I's and crossing your T's here in the web world. This is also really great area for keyword-rich content and how you help optimize the images on your site, in terms of SEO. I'm going to jump to videos just to check out something different. So here you give us the title, Neurotic Nerd Sizzle Reel. So I like that I've got the title and that you created this using Adobe Premiere. I thank you for paying attention to this very important detail of giving us this context to understand the content of what you created and why. It's a very important but very commonly overlooked addition that makes such a difference. Because if I'm busy and don't have, I'm a busy hiring manager, or I'm a busy professional looking to hire you for freelance work, I likely don't have tons of time to go in and look at every single thing here. And just these little details make it a lot easier for me to pick and choose which content is likely to showcase the talent or the skills that you have that I need and would feel comfortable hiring you for. Going to jump next to Book Online, and so just want to kind of show you different aesthetics that you're implying here. This is a white canvas background above, like an opaque above an image, right? So we have layers upon layers upon layers here, and I want you to think about being more consistent with how you are setting this up, because every page has kind of gotten a slightly different look and feel. And so I want to encourage you to start thinking about consistency from page to page. You have the Book Online, so here I can book it with you. And then we've got your contact details down here and just the ways that we can get in touch and other places on social media where we can get involved. I can see that this is like it's a widget that is applied within Wix. I'm wondering like how feasible this is for someone to set up some time with you. Do you maintain your other calendar appointments on this, whereby I could very confidently schedule some time with you on the 30th and know that you are actually available all of these times? So certainly if you're employing this tool, you need to think about how it works with your other engagements or your other scheduling or calendaring options. Because right now this is basically telling me that you're available all day long on the 30th, and I am counting on it that I can book with you at a certain time because it says here on this website that you're available. If that's not something that you feel comfortable doing, or you don't want to go to the added trouble of arranging all of your calendars into one place. You might consider just saying, drop me an email or give me a call, to check for scheduling availability. Overall, there's a lot of great stuff here that you're working with, but a few key points that you should think about as you get ready to evolve this site and move just a little bit closer to graduation. So last up, we've got the site of Michael. One thing that I noticed first off is we've got a large header up here. We've got the navigation, and then we have like somewhat a very tiny content window, right? So only I would say only 2/3 of this window is being utilized for this content space. My recommendation would be to maybe move this logo over, move your tagline up, move the navigation up to give us more viewable space instead of the kind of like this tiny window on which to view your content. You make it pretty easy to find what you have here. So home, bio, experience, education, skills, project, ways that I can connect with you on social media, and your contact information here. Scrolling down, you give us a little bit of info about who you are and the kinds of work that you want to get into. But then it looks like a collection of stock photography. If these are in fact your photos, I apologize. But being a videographer and a video editor, it might seem that you had some featured content that you would want to share here, right? Like, so maybe this is a video banner of a demo reel or a sizzle reel of things that you have put together. It's cool that we've got your story, but this is an issue that we're seeing somewhat on a lot of sites, and that's center aligning paragraph text. We all know that people mostly scan information online, and when you have more than one sentence or a sentence that drops onto multiple lines, it makes it easier to read it, because in English we're reading from left to right if the text is left aligned here, because as our eyes wrapped, it is most convenient and easiest for our eyes to have a consistent starting place at each part. So scrolling down, we continue to see some of your experience. I'm just going to actually poke through. So we've got home, bio, experience is going to drop us down. So here we have some of the places that you've done your work. It would be kind of cool to see maybe examples of these along with how you are showcasing this as your experience. Education, scrolling down, we have you have full sail listed here. Skills matches up with your proficiency, so we've got videography, content management, and communication. All of this is great. So what type of equipment, what type of software are you using in any of these? All of that is also keyword-rich content that would help us understand the full scope of your skills and potentially, what you could do for us. Under projects, so here you're talking about your YouTube channel and that you do the behind-the-scenes stuff. You talk about doing projects outside of Ambassadors of Gaming, but that's where all of your creative energy goes. But I don't see here, I'm looking for something to showcase the Ambassadors of Gaming. Like, I don't see a link here to any of those videos. So you sort of highlight it as a major part of what you do and what your interests are, but then I don't see a clear path to be able to check that out or to really fully understand. We've got, some of these, they're, like pen and paper is a bit antiquated for someone who is like a digital media video editor, producer, right? So are these the tools of your trade? How do you use these in the work that you do? Or are these just stock photos, right? It seems that maybe that's the latter. And I just don't know it seems like you're trying to highlight these projects, which are great, but I'm like clicking on them and nothing is happening, right? This is a research piece. Okay, wait, here's the link to the article. I'm going to check that out. Contact. But contact. Okay, I'm going to hit contact. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. This one says link to article. Okay, so this one is actually going in Ambassadors of Gaming. Now we're jumping up to another website, and it looks like you've written an article here. Home articles. Let's see. So this page looks like it is incomplete, but jumping here. Okay, so we do have one article up, but this site looks a little incomplete as well, you might consider just adding a clearer path to this, or a clear explanation of how or why you're intending to showcase this, and if it is sort of in a state of um, you know, under construction, shall we say. Maybe you could mention that to kind of help people understand that on this page more content is coming, or maybe you remove these other pages that don't have content, right? So that people don't think there's more here that's just not available to them. Scrolling down, we've got some of your photo work, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and click on one. And when it pulls up, I just want to see, you don't really have any other contextual information shared here, meaning that like I'm seeing this, but I'm not really understanding why you're sharing it with me or why you're showing it. Is this your Instagram feed? And if it is your Instagram feed, is it thematic? And by thematic, I mean matching sort of the overall aim or reach of this brand that you've created. So something to think about there. Last but not least, we have your contact page or contact section here. You say, thank you for reviewing my general portfolio. Curious as to what you mean by general. Do you have a more specific one? It seems purposeful that you use that word, but I'm curious as to the context and what you mean by it. And please get in touch. But what should we get in touch for? So give us a call to action. Do you want to be hired for projects? Do you want to collaborate? So certainly something there to think about. You guys have made a lot of great strides on these sites, and it's great to see how they have filled out over time. I worked with each of you on these back-end editing for the web and Portfolio 3, so certainly a lot has happened between now and then.